Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AAA Academy. Today, we are going to discuss traditional finance. In particular, we are going to think a little bit about the problem that the existing financial system is supposed to solve and some of the frictions that are going to be important when we discuss some of the DeFi applications in the later sessions. So, first of all, what is the finance problem? Essentially, in finance, we think that the world is full of many actors, entities who are interested in building wealth across time and across states that matter to them. From a business point of view, finance is essentially allowing them to get capital that they need in order to invest in productive activities. For example, the idea is that there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there, and entrepreneurs don't have access to all the resources that they need to invest in factories, buy software, or acquire talent. So they rely on the capital markets or the financial system to funnel money from people who have it sitting around and aren't using it to them, to entrepreneurs. Invested capital in productive activities generates more and more revenue, which grows everyone's wealth. So, overall, the goal of the financial system is to make sure resources grow as much as possible and allocate them efficiently both across time and across states of the world. So, how does the current financial system solve this problem? How does the system works? Well, imagine the financial system split into two sections. On one side, you have all the users of the financial system that try to get access to financial resources, which are the financial assets, but they don't interact with each other directly in the current financial system. They interact through two markets. One is the financial markets, for example, stock exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange. You can also think of the financial markets as an app that you open up on your phone to decide whether you're going to get your next stock or where are you going to get your mortgage loan. The other way users interact in the financial system is through banks or financial firms. Typically, we use banks to store our money, make payments, and so on. Financial firms typically provide us with access to financial markets if we can enter them directly. So one of the big problems that DeFi is trying to solve is to redesign financial markets and also redesign some of the activities that banks and financial firms are currently performing. Example, financial assets can be stocks, they can be bonds, they can be insurance, and so on. You can just think of those as contracts that govern how and why financial resources are divided up. So the reason why there are contracts is because if somebody is in the default or they violate it, you can recourse, you can sue them, and you can get some sort of compensation for it. So the legal system enforces those type of contracts. The final thing that we have in the current financial system that is useful is we have regulators. We have both policymakers. For the US, we have them in Washington, and we have regulatory agencies whose job is to make sure that the system works well. So, what do regulators do exactly? So, the basic principle behind most of the regulation is that most people who participate in the financial markets are naive. They want to make sure that the rules are in place so nobody is harmed if they participate in the financial markets. So, for example, the SEC has a whole set of rules on how companies can behave when they are trying to raise money for investment activities. For example, companies have very stringent disclosure rules. They have to tell you about their cash flow and they can't lie about it. Another example of the type of rule that the SEC is requiring is fiduciary responsibility. So, for example, if you have a broker who accesses financial markets for you, that broker has a mandated requirement to work in your best interest. That means that they have not only not to lie to you, but they have to do things above and beyond that threshold. Essentially, they have to take special care of you. On the other hand, banks face a series of rules about verifying people's identity who access the financial system. And the idea here is that we want to have those rules to prevent criminals from making fraudulent money transfers and entering into the financial system. So that's an anti-money laundering requirement. That's also a KYC or know your client requirements to prevent terrorists and people that we think are bad actors from accessing the financial system. Banks have an obligation to make sure that everybody who banks with them has provided government-backed documentation. The other sort of rule that's very common are rules that are designed to make sure that the system is stable. So banks have a bank capital requirement. That means that they have to have a certain amount of equity in their capital structure. They have to essentially be sitting on a large enough pile of cash for two particular reasons. One is that if suddenly a lot of people want to withdraw from the bank have to have enough money to return the cash. And the second reason is that they have to have enough pile of cash on hands in case some of their investment that they made turn out badly, and you want to make sure that the bank doesn't go bankrupt. Similarly, insurance companies have capital requirements because insurance companies promise to pay you sometime in the future if something bad happens to you. The worry is that they're going to run out of enough funds to pay off claims to people who have been paying into insurance companies over time. And then when it comes for them to get a payoff, the insurance company doesn't have enough money to pay them. So there is a lot of restriction on insurance companies to ensure that they keep essentially a large enough pile of cash for bad times. I will stop the first session here and I'll see you soon. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out to me.